everyone, and welcome to another Deep 3 episode. Today, I have a special guest, a dear friend of mine, friend now, coach last year, Thanasis Molyvdas from Greece. Molly, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Relaxing. Not so much fun this summer, due to the whole situation all over the world. But this gives us more time to relax. Think about our future, work on the game a little bit. How coaches are.
I know, right? That's what we just talked about before we start recording. About coaching and how hard of a job it is, and how people sometimes, they don't see the work behind it. The time they only see the 2 hours of practice or 3 hours, depends who your coach is.
Well,
But yeah, like the time you put in. I just remember you guys were scouting all the time last year, and it's grueling. It's stressful. It keeps you away from your family, and to be honest, the pay doesn't. It's not the same as some NBA
I,
coaches.
I'll tell you what. Many people think it's a game because they see it as a game. When they come in the stands, they just watch. They have fun. They have their sodas, their popcorns, and they spend 2 hours and they enjoy themselves. And they go and they think that because they're part of the game like this, that even for the rest of us, it's like a game. And there has been many, many times in my life when I was, I had to explain to people that not only for us, but there's loads of work apart from the 2 or 3 hours that you might spend on the court, loads of work when you go back home, but also for the players themselves, because many people don't even understand. They cannot understand that being a professional athlete is not an easy thing. So, yeah, well, it's a long discussion. Some people understand, some people don't really understand how the thing works, but still we're there for them and to recreate them and make them have couple of good hours on the weekends and maybe weekdays if we're part of a team that plays a European competition.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I totally agree with you. It's yeah, it's just grueling physically, mentally. Uh, it's a whole another level. But now that you mentioned the whole summer thing, how was this summer compared to last one when you were in training camp getting ready for the World Cup? Were
Last
you
summer
bored?
was
Were you bored this summer?
crazy. Last summer was crazy. I was like, because because of this year we've been actually doing nothing. I mean, there's very few things that you can do compared, as far as our job is concerned. Uh, Many times we were talking about it with my wife because she didn't actually get to see me last summer. She had to fly all the way down to Crete to be with me for not actually with me, just to see me for 3 4 days when we played in the tournament in Heraklion. And yeah, it was a crazy, long and full summer. Very interesting experience.
Absolutely. And how was the pressure? I played in Greece. I saw what Giannis means for Greece now, and I think what Giannis means for European basketball more like it. I think him and Luka Doncic are like the flag carriers of European basketball at this point in the world. And you know, how was it? Greece has always been good. I mean, there's a basketball tradition, there's basketball history, and but how was it now? To have the NBA MVP. Was there extra pressure? Of course, there was extra attention. I'm sure where he couldn't step outside, and there's pictures everywhere, and all this stuff that can take away, some kind of distraction for the other guys. How did you guys manage all that?
I will tell you what. Greece is a heaven of basketball pressure for a professional basketball player or coach. Like there is no time where you're participating in a club or a national team, uh, younger national team or the men's national team, as a player or as a coach, and there is no pressure from the surrounding environment. Basketball in Greece has been big. Even though we haven't had a serious success with the national team since 2009, I think was the last medal that we got in Poland. But there's always great expectations. There's always big pressure regarding the result, and this is because the clubs of Greece have kept a high level through all these years. So this always brings out expectations. Now, with Giannis being on the team this summer, of course, had us a little bit more stressed because everybody was expecting that Giannis would carry the team in his shoulders the way he did with the Bucks. But jumping back a little bit when we talked about coaching and players and stuff like that, I should really say that very, very few people understand the difference of how the game is played in the NBA and how the game is played when it comes to a European competition or the World Championships. The tactics are totally different, and coaches from all over the world now learn to play the game different, and this made it very difficult. I mean,
If you think about it, right? So what you said about people expecting Giannis to carry the team, to me, it goes against the whole basketball culture of Greece. Like when I played there, I realized how how tactics are super involved in it. How passing the ball in team plays is very involved. So to expect a guy like Giannis to carry you, it kind of goes against the whole mentality to me, whereas the team mentality, right? And it's not a like a one man show. That like we'll give this guy the ball, he's gonna get 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 15 assists, and we're gonna win. And to me, the Greek culture is about teamwork. How all those guys, when Diamantidis, Spanoulis were in the same team, and it was just a whole different dynamic where it wasn't one guy. I think it was one guy at a time. They used to take turns, right? So Spanoulis has the ball, Diamantidis take a back seat. Diamantidis has the ball, then Spanoulis takes a back seat, and it's always been like that. It's always been about team culture. So to put that much pressure on Giannis, I think it was just a lot.
I'll tell you what. First of all, let me what I wanted to
Right.
say. When Giannis went back to the States and they asked him about the World Championship and the game, and I remember that probably the first or maybe one of the first things he himself said is that I finally feel free on the floor. I don't know if you remember, it was an interview, I think, or something, where he referred to the fact that whenever he had the ball in his hands, he had like 5 defenders on him or right next to him, or when he was driving, everybody was packing the lane, which is totally different from the game, from the way they play the game in the States. So this is one thing. The second thing is that when we had players like Diamantidis, Panoulis, like you mentioned Papaloukas, Zisis, and all these guys, they had a similar style of gameplay. They were playing the game in a similar way. So this made it easier to have a team effort and a team approach, the way you play the game. Now, when you bring Giannis in a group of people that is not used to play the way that he plays, this is where the hard part comes in to build the chemistry. And you've been a national team player yourself for many years. You know that national team training camps are not long enough, and you don't always have the time to do the things you want the way you want. So it's not always an easy process. I'll give you an example from this World Championship national teams. A very characteristic example was Czech Republic. Czech Republic played, and everybody was talking about how good they were playing, how well they were performing. But very few people really took a step back to see that more than half of the national team of Czech Republic are teammates in Nimburg. And then they had Satoransky coming in, and okay, Vasily was injured, but if Vasily, they would only have like one star player or maybe two if Vasily was not injured to come in this group of players who already play together and be easy to this for them to be easier. Now we had different type of players. We had to make our guys try to understand and play the game, support the game of Giannis, so we can, give him his style on the floor, so he can do his things and the rest support it. But it's not always very easy, and it's not always. It doesn't always work when you don't have the amount of time to get yourself ready and then you go and play a competition which is by itself, very hard competition.
Yeah, and I mean Giannis is such a special player that it's hard to even say. You know, when Doncic goes back to the Slovenian national team, it's different. You know, it's but Giannis is one of a kind. You know, it's like to me, it's very similar to LeBron James. So you can't really nobody can get used to it to someone playing like that unless you actually play with that person. You know,
Exactly. True.
so it's
That's true.
but to me it just seemed like there was like so much hype and then so much pressure on it. But again, like you said, the Greek basketball culture, there was always pressure there. So it's kind of expected.
But the thing, you know what? If you see the way Giannis plays compared to what you yourself experienced this year from the Greek league, and you know that in general this is the way that Greeks approach the game. Uh, it's I mean it's different stories, right? If you think about it, one is like Giannis is here, and the Greek way, let's put this way, is somewhere over here. So you have to bring these two things together and make them work together. Uh, for Milwaukee, let's say, to make this work, they let Giannis do be Giannis, and then they have like 10 shooters on the floor where he's just dishing the ball when he cannot just score, and they just shoot. And when you have good shooters, you win the games.
You see, you should have gave me a Greek passport.
Well, yeah, this is with clubs. You can do this with a club. You can do this with an organization. But when it comes to national team,
Yeah,
you cannot.
it's
And
different.
if you don't have it, if it's not there, you cannot produce it over a summer. So this is for me. This is one way to do it with Yanis. Then the other way, if you wanna incorporate Yanis in your team, is to change the style that your team is gonna play, and you have to be aggressive, uh, press, run, play. Different kind of game, which again is not very easy to
Yeah,
set and prepare in small time that you have to prepare yourself for
yeah,
example.
I mean, you need certain type of players, and to me, that's one thing that is always uh, that's to me that's what Spain's success is all about. It's they have the right guys in the right positions. You know, if just if you think like one thing, I don't know, one thing changes there, it all gets thrown off. You know, like if Pau Gasol wasn't exactly Pau Gasol, if he was more of a Giannis type player, then it changes the whole dynamic of that Spanish team. You know, if Margasol wasn't the Margasol that he is now, that he can create from the low post, they can do a little bit of everything. It changes the ball movement of the whole Spanish team. So as soon as you change one thing in the national team, it just completely changes the dynamic in general of the team, the culture of it, everything. But now that you mentioned the Greek league, now the most tactics I ever seen in my life. I enjoy it. For me, I love it because the more information I get, the easier it is for me to play. It doesn't overwhelm me. To me, it makes it easier because I'm not. I know I'm not going to have the athletic advantage, but you don't want to make it a foot race. So if you're always paying attention, if your brain is always working, it makes it a lot easier. Of course, it comes with a cost. A lot of videos, a lot of hours on your side as coaches, to watch a ton of games, player characteristics, um, you know, and also one of the things that I really liked it was that, it was very detailed as far as when you close out to a certain player, how do you close out? When you push a certain player, not only how do you push him to which side, but knowing that when you push him to one side or the other, you know what to expect, right? As far as is he going to shoot a jump shot, is he going to go to a step back. So it was more like a really in-depth like scouting report, almost like a synergy. Like get everything off the synergy, kind of like Ash did that for me a few times, and I used to do that when I played in the VTB a lot. Because in some ways it's like my first big league job, um, and it was different. When I get a matchup with Kamakoglu, when I get a matchup with Darius Songaila, Derek Brown, I knew I can be outmatched. So the only way was to do it to go in that depth report where I like, okay, like some guy likes to go left, and when he goes left, he's gonna do this. So like my brain was always working, and it was wired this way, and this is why I had a ton of fun. I liked it. I like that style of play, but it's not easy. Like I said, because it's like the most minute details you guys pay attention to.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that this was a big part of the success that our team had the last couple of years in the island. Uh, we recruited players that were smart enough to understand all this big load of information and use this big load of information that we were providing, and they were and apart from being smart enough, they were kind enough to put their ass down, work like crazy. You said it yourself. We worked a lot on and off court, and this was a big part of the success that this team was having. And I believe that if the pandemic didn't hit, we would have a very huge finish this season in the league.
No, I thought it was a top four team. No doubt about it. If you ask me, uh, I think the Panathinaikos. I thought we can beat anybody, and we kind of proved that actually. So, I think, of course,
Well,
Panathinaikos is
if
home.
you think about it, we lost to Panathinaikos, and then the only team that beat us twice this year, and it was hard for them when they came to play our home court, was Prometheus.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, we were trying really hard to succeed, and okay, I mean, when I say we, I mean coaches and players along, and we were doing pretty good because, as I said in the beginning, we recruited players that we knew that they could do the job like this, that they wouldn't be lazy, that they wouldn't be, they wouldn't come just to make stats, go. They would come and they would want to join us because they would understand that they were joining a serious basketball program.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think to me, it wasn't even the practice. Like we talked about the practices, but I love the schedule, right? So like Monday, you come in, you kind of get your buddy going, and then you have 3 hard days, and then Friday was easier. You have a game. It was perfect, honestly. Uh, it was like okay, well, you're on the court it's like that 2 hours, whatever it is. It's hard, and that's gonna happen anywhere. But to me, it was the difference that was, the video. Where you have 1 hour, 1 hour and a half video. It's just the extra work that we have to do, and that's what makes the difference. Because a lot of coaches like would work and you just work with that. Like whatever you put on the court, and then you do a little bit of scouting, and that's it. Um, but it's like the difference. That was the biggest difference maker to me. It was just the scouting report, and how you understand everything. How you got us to you watch the flow of the game first, right? I mean, we watched, how the team plays in the flow, right? With certain matchups for 2 quarters, 3 quarters, whatever you guys decide to show us. Then you go to the plays. Then you also go to the personal characteristics of the players. So you have three types of videos shown to you, whereas it's not just plays or just players or just plays and players. To me, the most important was also see the flow of the game. Uh, because it's good. That way, you know how a play goes. But when you see a flow of the game, then you know when Keith Langford is going to take over or try to take over, right? And we had this conversation in the IA game where, for me, I knew, like, I've played against Langford before. My mindset was at some point I got to get him off balance, get him mad, because he loses his temper fairly quick. And he was already frustrated at that point. He missed a few shots, and I thought it was the right time for me to take a hit at him. It wasn't like nothing illegal, right? So he's coming off an Iverson cut. I just stepped in front of him, bumped him really hard. It was a foul. So, but I wouldn't know that unless you watch the flow of the game. So to me, that's part of, like, a big part of you guys paying attention to detail, as far as showing us different variations of scouting.
And I tell you what, on this thing, many people, even professional coaches or players, don't really understand the importance of momentum swings during the game. Like, way too many people underestimate this. They just see a game, they say it's okay, it's like a 20-point game now. Switch off the TV, it's done. And then the other day, like, how did this happen? How did they lose the game? Or how did it end up being so close in the end? It's like it was 20 points. It's really important for players to see this and understand, and see how a team reacts, watching a flow, and see how a team reacts when the opponent is making them run, or when the opponent is putting pressure on them, when they let them go at their own pace, where they feel convenient, where they can do the stuff they want, where they don't feel any pressure from defense. This is something that you don't really get when you get to watch, clips or highlights, let's say, of how they run this play, how they run that play, or how this player shoots the ball, or how he drives. So it's really a big part, and it has to do with this. Players that are being prepared for a game need to actually watch how the opponent uh, plays during the game, not specific clips. It is a big part.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you coached about everywhere, since we talked about Greek league. You were in Zalgiris, you're in Lebanon. How is that different? How is each league different? How is every team different? And to me, it's also different when you build a EuroLeague team. Uh, some teams build it for the EuroLeague, and then they kind of realize, okay, it's not going to work out in, like, the National League. Sometimes it's very rare, but still, because you have Tesco, you have Fenerbahce, but you see it every now and then. It's like, it's because it's a different style of play, right? So you bring in at Panathinaikos, you bring in a really type of team, and then the Greek league plays totally different. Then you might struggle against some of the good teams. Okay, now it's different without Olympiacos, but it's
Yeah, well,
it's
the
impossible with
thing
that
is,
kind of budget. But you see Barcelona struggle every now and then. They might do good in the EuroLeague, they play bad in the Spanish league. They good in the Spanish league, they play bad in the EuroLeague. Uh, it's, for example, it's Ante Tomic. To me, that's like, is he effective in both leagues really, or is he effective in one of them? Because of style of play. You know,
exactly,
that,
exactly. Well, let's take one thing at a time. Uh, when you put together a EuroLeague team, and the league in the country that you participate is not a high level league, then you might end up having a problem, struggling in some games, because your players will take for granted that all the games that we play in our league, in the local league, will be easy. And this could be a reason that will make a top level team, a EuroLeague level team, struggle when they play in let's say Greek league. Like, for example, last season, Peristeri beat Panathinaikos. And this was considered, big success by many, which was to be honest. Now, the one possible reason is that EuroLeague is an exhausting league, and maybe you have a double game week, and you come and you have to play your fourth game in a row, and players are tired, exhausted from traveling, blah 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 blah. So they come and play a game where it can happen to everybody. They might have a bad night, they're tired, and they lose focus and they lose the game. Or it could be that they think, okay, it's going to be an easy game. We don't have to push ourselves so much, and then game stays close. They might miss a couple of shots. The other team make some lucky shots, and then in the end, it's going to come to one shot, make it or lose it, and you lose the game. So, when you have, and it's okay. I mean, it can happen to anything. It's normal. It's logical. You cannot, finish a season having 0 losses. It doesn't make sense. I mean, even in a Greek league for Panathinaikos, when there is no Olympiacos, it doesn't make sense to finish a season without a loss, because it's a long season. When a team participates in EuroLeague, it's a long season. So and Lithuanian league is a similar league. It's not a very strong league, but it's a league that is playing. All the teams like to play an up-tempo game. They run, they shoot a lot. This is how Lithuanians enjoy the game, how they play the game. So there would come games where you would have to face. You'd go and the other team just score 3 after 3 after 3, and you just you're saying, what's happening over here? I'm supposed to be the dominant team, the champion, and then these guys are supposed to be last on the table, or and still this is the game, the way the game is played. So when you have to deal with high level teams, because the talent is there, because the ability is there on the player's side, coach's job is to try to keep them alert, focus, and on every game find the proper motivation. So the players, when they come to play, they play to their normal standards, to their levels, their normal level, not underestimate the opponent, not relax, and this will eventually end up for them in a bad way.
To me, one thing I noticed about Rick Pitino, for example, he used to change lineups. His Greek league lineup was a little bit different than his EuroLeague lineup. Or maybe his use of the big guys was a little bit different. Just from what I noticed. I watched quite a few games and I was like, okay. And then I started thinking about Milano, for example. And to me, they built a great team this year. But I'm really curious how that team's going to do in the Italian league. It's a team that's clearly built for the EuroLeague, to go deep in the EuroLeague. But then, you have a Bologna team who's a little bit different and who's going to play a little bit different.
Isn't that the main concern for Milan the last I don't know how many years? I mean,
no, I think it is. I think it is for most teams. Probably unless you play in the Spanish league. I mean, the EuroLeague is the main one. And I remember our years at Stelmet, and that was, it's grueling, like you said. When you come and you go play Barcelona, and then you have to focus on maybe, a smaller team. Then how do you refocus? Okay, it's a certain level. Okay, if you're not Panathinaikos, you're Stelmet, but it's how do you refocus?
But still, for your country, you're like Panathinaikos.
It used to happen to
Stelmet was like this.
Yeah, and Vitabi, same thing with Kalev Kramo. It was like you go and we play 3 leagues. So we play Unix in Eurocup, then we go beat Unix, then we have to go play in Krasnodar and VTB. Then after that, the 4th game of the week or 3rd game of the week, the same 6-7 days, was an Estonian league game. Even though if it was Tartu, who's like the second best team in Estonia, and we knew that
Exactly.
finals, they were in the FIBA Cup. we were Euro Cup, and you knew that like okay, it's a big game, but you have two huge games in one week, and you have third game in a row where it's like, oh man, like we need to win this one for home court advantage in the finals. You end up losing it, or we end up
or,
losing.
or maybe or maybe you don't play Tartu and you play an even less
Yeah,
team, and you go there relaxed and you say, finally, we killed ourselves on the road 2 games in a row. Now it's time to
you
relax and
expect
game
to,
is a game, and then you end up
yeah, you expect to relax. I remember one game. It was December. It
exactly.
was cold, man. It was cold in the gym, and we were playing Talina Kalev, and we played in Russia somewhere. Was it Spartak maybe? I forget. But so we play in Russia, and we come back the very next night. So like it was like a back to back. We come back, we're home for like 5 hours, then we go to the gym to play the game. And coach comes up to me and Frank Elligar. He's like, I don't want to play you guys, but if necessary, one of you guys has to play. So Frank and I look at each other. I'm like, is it gonna be you or me? And then when crazy things happen, we're down 15 at halftime. He comes to the locker room, and before he takes anybody, he's like, comes to me and Frank, like, okay, so both of you guys are gonna play. Go warm up. So it was like one of those things. Like my mind was already out. And then we come back and we barely won the game by like maybe like 5 or 7 points. Because I mean, look, Frank and I were also out mentally. Because like we're like, oh,
Yeah, of
like,
course, because you prepare yourself for
yeah,
a day off, let's say, because it's
yeah,
supposed to be an easy game, and you go there and you just relax at the bench or something like that. You're that far away from turning and ordering. Can I have a soda and some popcorn, please? What's the game?
right,
But you're in Team Jersey, and but it happens. So teams built to play in high level competition. Uh, they might get in trouble during the year in the local league because it's normal. High level competition always is a big target. Um, let's say, let me give you a quick example in the Greek in Greece, what has happened in the recent years. Greek Cup is kind of let's say underestimated because everybody more or less knows that in the end, the years before, in the end, it's going to be Olympiacos playing Panathinaikos in the final. So teams don't really care about it. They say, okay, we'll go play. They're going to treat it like a friendly. And okay, we win, and then we go, and maybe, most likely, we'll end up play semifinals. We will either play Olympiacos or Panathinaikos. We will lose, and Olympiacos will play Panathinaikos for the final. So the last few years, there had been a couple of teams from second division built to win the division. Like they were not
yeah.
bad teams; they were good teams with experienced players. Because second division always participates in the Greek Cup, but most of the times nobody really realizes it because they get eliminated very early in the competition. There were two teams that made it. One made it to the final, and the other made it to the semifinal. Why? Because these teams had motivation. They were playing high level competition for them. They were playing against A1 teams that were treating the competition like friendly games, preparation games, or something in between, depending on when the date of the game was. And they won. So this is exactly what can happen to any team that plays Euroleague, and it comes the time to play a lower level team in the local championship. They relax and they just get beaten.
When you were building the Zalgiris team, how was that different than building a team for the Greek league?
Tell you what, Zalgiris team was back then was in a strange situation. It was uh, changing ownership. It was the previous owner just left the team. He had some issues, financial issues, and he left the team. And the team was, or it was the first season that the team had a really low budget, and they decided not to play VTB. They would play Lithuanian championship and Euroleague. and it was a rebuilding season actually for the team. We had mostly young kids from a very high quality group of kids that played for the under 20s in Zalgiris. Uh, Lucas Lekavicius was there. Uh, uh, Arturas Gudaitis was there, but he missed half of the season because he was coming from a torn ACL. Vaidas Karniauskas, who played the last couple of years in the Greek league, uh, was there. So it was a mixture. Who else was there? Ulanovas was there. So these kids were all 17, 18-year old back then. It was a mixture of these guys and Saras on his last year as a player. Uh, who else was? So it was a mixture of players, mixture of ages. We only had one import. We played. It was a rebuilding phase for the team. So nothing was easy. It wasn't Zalgiris team. That.
Yeah, so you didn't have the option to bring 5, 6 foreigners and watch.
Exactly, experienced players and all this stuff. You couldn't pay and bring in all the high-end Lithuanian players. It was, it was a different story. It was the beginning, let's say, of the building of the creation of the team that later on, when Saras became the head coach, took the guys and made them play really good basketball. And of course, the financial of the team improved in these 2-3 years. And Saras, he was an amazing player. He's an amazing coach. His brain is functioning in high.
You probably can't sleep either, but actually, a few Greek teams I think could use that too. A few rebuilding years.
Yeah, well, I think that Panathinaikos is doing that this year.
No, but I'm saying like from the financial standpoint, we're like, okay, like
Yeah, well,
we'll
that's
have
a
because I mean it's to me that was one of the things like it's just he can be so special playing Paulo Kararis, and it's hard to understand, but it comes with a price, and it's hard when players run away from you because you have some issues, and then it's hard also for the Greek league in general because it needs those teams to be at the top. Honestly,
sure.
it would
I'll
be
tell you what, because my best friend is now the head coach of Aris, and we've been talking about all these issues like day after day. Uh, these teams will never stop existing.
no, absolutely.
That's one thing that people need to understand. I mean, it's a sad story for us, me and you, but Limnos was there for 2 years and is no more. And this is because one guy decided that I'm gonna take my money, invest it there, or not invest it, put it there, because I want to do something really good for my island. Because I come from the island of Limnos and I want to do something good for the island. I want to bring a top level team there. But then something happens, like a pandemic, and now he cannot afford paying for a team, and the team is no more. It doesn't exist. But Aris and PAOK and Olympiakos and Panathinaikos and AEK, they might go through all this kind of turbulence, but they're not going to be. There's not going to be a day that someone is going to pull the plug and they're not going to be there.
I think Ike is a good example of it, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, AEK is an example of a team that is surviving through its problems. It's similar to Aris or PAOK, but not as huge, because at this moment AEK has a guy with big pockets that can still, pay for stuff. Because exactly because I was talking about these things, the last few days. Aris bigger part of the debt, almost 70 to 80% of the debt that Aris now has, uh, came from the season
When I was
2016.
supposed to be there, yeah, I know.
Hmm?
When you guys were looking to bring me in, I know.
Yeah, exactly. And this is because the owner at that time got into financial trouble, and instead of saying, you know what, I have these issues, so we cannot afford go all the way with the team that we built in the beginning. We can just release some players so that not everybody loses their money, and we can go on a different, approach the remaining of the season in a different way. He decided to stick with the plan. He said, no, don't worry, we will do it. And this ended up, almost destroying the club.
Yeah,
Still, the Aris is there. I mean, no player is going to lose their money. Sooner or later, probably later, they will get it.
yeah. No, I mean it's a difficult situation. I think it's
But yeah, then we go back to how we started our conversation. It's not easy for Greeks to accept that Aris or PAOK or Panathinaikos or whoever it is, these kind of clubs, these big brand names are not going to be competing, to win the championship. It's unacceptable for the Greek fans.
yeah. But I mean, to me, I don't know. Just it was probably one of the most fun leagues to be in. I think it just from everything on off the court. I mean, okay, financially, she's like whatever. But as a basketball player, I think it's fun. It's fun because okay, you get some attention. Of course, we got a lot of attention being on the island, um, and I'm sure it can be bad attention. You know, if you play Aris and you lose to Pauk, it's not going to be very good attention. You might not
Yeah,
want to come
well, you don't go out of the house for a
out.
couple of days.
Exactly, but it's also I think just a lot of fun as far as the atmosphere in the gyms. Um, it depends what you consider fun. I think I don't like people coming to like a theater. It's like just clap and it's different. I don't know. You like them to jump up and down, or like how we got like our gym was small, but it got very very loud. So it was a huge home court advantage, even though you
It
have a
was a big
small gym.
boost.
So it was different. It was so to me that's why I really liked it. But now let's go to Lebanon. How is that compared to everything else that we just talked about? Different
That
world, I
was
get it.
crazy. That was crazy. I tell you what, because I had a really big discussion about this with Jerry Smith, our point guard, two men, last year, not this year, when we first brought him to the club, because he was playing 3 years in a row second division Turkey,
Yeah,
and second division Turkey, Lebanon, Qatar, Emirates, all these leagues are more or less similar. Go over there only if you have the ability to score. They sign you for that. They pay you to play offense. Nobody thinks about defense. Especially if you're an import. Don't worry. Don't foul. Uh, you
save
know,
your energy.
just get Don't waste your energy. Just get the ball and score. And the craziest thing about Lebanon was like they had a rule back then when I was there that you can change as many players as you want till you start the playoffs, and then you cannot change any player. So if a team signed you, for example, and for 2 weeks in a row you couldn't score more than 20 points, they would cut you. Bring another guy in.
Nice.
I don't know,
Good
15, 20
basketball.
in a month. If you cannot score more than 20 points in a game, they cut you. And then playoffs start. You go in, you have a team one way or another, you have a team. Then somebody gets injured, you cannot replace him. That was crazy. I mean, you had to play, and then uh, our team that year had like 2, 3 injuries. I wasn't there. I left. I came back to Aris maybe a month and a half before the season finished in Lebanon. I came back to Aris, but our team had 2, 3 very important injuries by the beginning of the playoffs, and they couldn't bring in anybody. So they lost. It's a team that was winning the championship year after year after year, and then you get struck by this, and you just lose, and you cannot do anything.
That's crazy.
But it was a fun league. The fans were very similar to the Greek fans. Loud. Of course, I couldn't understand what they were talking about because it was all Arabic. But the fans were loud. The fans were very supportive to the teams, and in general, they were very close to the players. Uh, okay, to the imports, if they were playing where they were playing well, they were treating them like gods. And the team that I was in, Al Riyadi, that had like half the national team of Lebanon playing. You cannot imagine how they were treating the national team. We would go play away games, and people would be, queuing up, waiting for our guys to sign autographs for them. Not their players would just go by, and they wouldn't even turn and look at them. And then when our team would come off the bus, it would be like, please sign here, sign there. It was a different experience because they are a small country. They're very united when it comes to national team issues, national issues. So when they were seeing these guys, national team players, everybody was going crazy. Everybody was
Gotcha.
going crazy. It was no tactics, not much. Very very different situation for me.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah, and definitely different. Yeah, for sure. Molly, thank you so much, man. It's been great talking to you, catching up with you.
Wait. We cannot go like this.
Oh God,
You you
oh,
have,
God,
you
I
have to tell me a couple of things about the coming season, about your coming season. Because for me, for now, I'm relaxing, I'm resting. So
we're now you're on vacation still, huh?
yeah, I'm on a vacation mode. But you have a season starting, and
Sooner or later, nobody knows when, but we're starting.
well, okay, yeah, well, that goes for everybody all over the world. But I mean, you're back home after quite a few years, so why don't you share a little bit of that before we say goodbye?
Yeah. No, I mean it's just different. It's gonna be a different year for everybody. I don't know what to expect. It's one of those few years where you just have no idea what to expect. How you play, you just what kind of shape you're gonna be in, because you don't know how you react. Like they're talking about having tournaments, 2, 3 games in a row at some point. Which I mean, for older teams, is not really going to be beneficial. For teams with a smaller budget, they don't have a deep roster. That's going to be a factor. So it can be a very, very weird year where there can be a lot of surprises. So you really got to, we talked about focus earlier. I think that's what it's going to come down to, really the focus of the players and, how can they react in some very uncomfortable situations. For myself, I have no idea when I can bring my family, from the U.S. Because of different reasons. If we play tournaments and I have to quarantine for 10 days in a hotel without being able to go outside unless I go to the practice and then play the 3, 4 days in a row, that means I'm 15 days out of the house. So like, what's the point of bringing the family here? Just they're going to be by themselves. So it's going to be unique situations for all the players. I think the guys that have families can be really hard, and it's interesting. And for coaching stuff, like we talked about it, how do you react to it? How do you prepare? If now we play 3, 4 games in a row, and then do we start playing every weekend, or like it's very hard to prepare. Like, right? How are you going to do your scouting from one night to the other? Or are you going to have 3 weeks and every week you're going to prepare for a different team? Like, oh, first week we're going to prepare the first game.
Well,
Second week we're going to prepare a second game with the tournament. And third week, we're going to prepare in the third game of the tournament, right? Like, how do you prepare that? It's unique. But as far as like for me, for expectations, I mean, I'm about to be 33. There is no more expectations. I just want to have fun on my way out. That's about it. I think the part where my career was stressful, my career was, uh, my main and only focus. Some ways, I think it's gone. It's behind me. To be honest with you, it's part of why some teams called me this summer, and I chose not to do anything. I didn't want to play Champions League. Um, you know, I didn't want to go to a certain level. I just don't think I had the mental capacity that we talked about to be at a level. I don't know if that's going to change next year or the year after, but right now I just didn't have it. And as I just towards the end of it, I had a rough year with the injury. So again, that was also playing a factor in my you know, mental state of mind of what I want to
Yeah,
do.
true.
So,
But you're back home now.
yeah, that's the main part. That's the main part. It's good that if this is it, I'm okay with it. Um, in most ways, I think this is it for me. Mentally, just because I'm ready for some other things in life. I gave this game a lot, over the years. Like you said, it's a grueling job, and just because of the injuries and the hepatitis and everything that I had going on the last 2 3 years, it kind of forced me into making more and more plans for my after I play career. And of course, when that happens, you kind of just shift your mind a little bit. Um, but I do have some kind of pride, this type of player I was, that I don't want to go out a certain way. So, if I want to go out, I want to go out with a bang, and that's it. I was watching.
Uh, I tell you what, I believe that every player deserves that. I mean, no player that has played the game, no matter what the level, if he's played the game for these many years, no player deserves to go out halfway of the season injured and stuff like that. All the players deserve to go out, play, finish a full season, enjoy it, the end, and then say, okay, that was it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing that you watched The Last Dance, right? I assume. I assume
Who
you did.
didn't?
But like Jordan talked about it a few times when he retired. He's like I was mentally done. Like I didn't need to play basketball at that point. After the first three-peat, he said I was done. I just wanted to play baseball, so I just wanted to do that. And then when he felt like coming back to basketball, he came back to basketball. And then, like he said
He could do whatever he wanted.
yeah, of course. And after the second three-peat, he was like, actually, you know what? I wanted to go to the fourth championship. They didn't let me. So, like you said, that regret is always going to be with him, but it wasn't his decision.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everybody wants to walk out a certain way. There's one way I don't want to walk out is as one of those guys that played too long. That's definitely something that I'd rather go out on my own terms, in my own, like just not be like, oh yeah, he played until he was like 41, but here 5 years he was just there. That's not something that I want to. That's not the
True, I
way.
understand. It totally makes sense. Well, all the best for the coming season. Stay healthy.
We'll stay in touch, man. We'll stay in touch, as you know.
Win the championship in Romania. Surprise everybody.
That would be nice. Hey, that wouldn't be so bad.
Why not?
For sure.
There is, it's not a spoiler, but
It's gonna be an interesting year. So anything is possible.
you guys put together a good team. So I mean,
well, we have some guys coming from the Greek League, quite a few. So
they have the experience.
exactly. No, but thank you, Molly, for your time, and then we'll stay in touch.
It was fun. I enjoyed it much.
Always, man. Thank you.
Take care.